A German soldier stood on top of a cliff and stared into the darkness. He had no idea that in a few minutes he would feel a fear unlike anything he had felt before. Not fear of a bomb, not fear of a tank. Fear of men who should not have been able to get there. This is not a story about an ordinary battle. This is not the story you already know about Normandy. This is the story of a cliff the Germans believed could never be taken. 100 meters of vertical rock rising straight out of the sea. No beach at its base. No path up. No way for a man to climb it under fire, without ropes, without equipment. German engineers placed 6 heavy guns at the top. Guns that could hit 2 invasion beaches at once. This was the single deadliest point on the entire coast. If those guns survived the morning of June 6th, thousands of soldiers landing on the beaches below would die before their boots touched the sand. Allied planners knew this in advance. There was only one problem. No one could attack from land because the Germans had sealed every road leading to that position. The only way in was straight up the cliff. The cliff the Germans called impossible. Allied command made a decision that sounded like madness. They would send men to climb that rock face under fire at dawn with no cover and no way back. The mission went to a group of American soldiers known as Rangers. No one on that coast had ever faced them before. That night, the Germans found out what they were. This video will show you exactly what happened on that cliff. How a small group of soldiers climbed a vertical wall of rock under enemy fire. How they destroyed a weapon system designed to slaughter the men landing below. And why the German officers who survived that morning later described it as the moment they understood they were losing the war. This is not just a story about courage. Outcome of history. If they do one impossible thing perfectly on one single night. This is that night. German command had a plan for almost every possible invasion route. They studied the beaches, they studied the roads, they studied every bridge and every path the Allies might use to push inland. There was only one spot they marked as completely safe. Pointe du Hoc. 100 meters of solid rock rising straight out of the water. No beach at the base, no trail to the top. No place where a man could climb without rope, without gear, under fire. German engineers installed 6 heavy artillery guns on that cliff, guns capable of hitting both Omaha and Utah Beach at the same time. This was the most lethal point on the entire invasion coast. If those guns survived the morning of June 6th, thousands of soldiers landing below would die before they reached dry sand. Allied intelligence knew this weeks in advance. Problem no plan could solve easily. No one could reach this position by land because German forces had sealed every road with heavy defensive positions. The only path in was straight up the cliff face. The cliff the Germans had already written off as unreachable. Allied command made a decision that sounded reckless to anyone hearing it for the first time. Send men to climb that rock wall by rope, under fire, at dawn, with no way to retreat if it failed. This mission went to a Ranger battalion under Lieutenant Colonel James Rudder. German commanders did not worry about this direction. One staff officer wrote it plainly in a defense report that spring. This terrain defends itself. He was right about the terrain. He was wrong about the men. These Rangers trained for 18 months for missions other soldiers would call impossible. Climbing cliffs in full combat gear, assaulting machine gun nests under direct fire. Everything went wrong. The boats left the ships in total darkness before dawn on June 6th. The plan called for them to reach the cliff at the exact moment the sun broke the horizon, when German lookouts would be watching the beaches, not the rock face behind them. Every part of the plan depended on timing measured in minutes. Something broke immediately. Thick fog and a navigation error sent the boats off course. Rudder caught the mistake after 20 minutes and turned the entire group back, but now they had to run parallel to the coastline, directly under German machine gun positions lining the cliff. Every extra minute meant losing the one advantage they had: surprise. Instead of landing at sunrise, they hit the base of the cliff nearly 40 minutes late. The Germans could already see them. The Germans were already firing. Simple in theory. In practice, the ropes had soaked up seawater during the crossing and become too heavy. Many rockets failed to carry the hooks high enough. Ropes fell back into the water before they could catch hold of anything solid. Fewer ropes meant fewer paths up, and every one of them was under direct fire from above. German soldiers on the clifftop cut ropes with knives and threw grenades down onto climbing men. Rain from the night before had turned the rocks slick. One wrong grip meant a fall of dozens of meters onto rock or into the sea. Rudder climbed with his men, even though nothing required him to go first. He understood that if the commander hesitated for even a second, the entire operation could collapse. The climb took far longer than any planner had estimated. Some rangers reached the top in under 5 minutes. Themselves over the edge, they found something no one had planned for. The guns they had risked everything to destroy were gone. The Rangers reached the top of the cliff and found empty gun pits, no artillery, just wooden telephone poles painted gray, positioned to look like gun barrels from the air. German forces had moved the real guns hundreds of meters inland the night before, hiding them from Allied bombers. This could have ended the mission in failure. All that climbing, all that blood on the rock, wasted on a decoy made of wood. But Rudder did not pull his men back. He ordered them to keep searching. 2 sergeants, Leonard Lamel and Jack Kuhn, moved inland without orders, following instinct alone, convinced the real guns had to be close. They found them in an apple orchard several hundred meters from the cliff, fully loaded, completely unguarded. Assumption cost them control of the entire invasion's eastern gun coverage. Lamel did not have enough explosives on hand to destroy the guns outright. He used thermite grenades instead, melting the firing mechanisms until the weapons became useless without firing a single shell toward the beaches. The destruction took only a few minutes. The few minutes that saved thousands of lives on Omaha and Utah Beach. Back on the cliff, the fight for the position was far from over. German counterattacks came in waves throughout the day. Cut off from the main invasion force, the Rangers held a narrow strip of ground with dwindling ammunition. Radio contact kept failing. Reinforcements expected within hours were stuck fighting their way through the beaches below. German commanders in the area could not explain what had happened. Their ground with no way to retreat. One word started appearing again and again in German reports from that stretch of coast: impossible. It was not a compliment. It was an admission of defeat. The Rangers held that cliff for 2 days before the main invasion force finally broke through to reach them. Of the roughly 225 men who climbed that rock face at dawn, fewer than 100 remained able to fight by the time relief arrived. The rest were dead or wounded, defending a strip of ground no other unit could have taken. German commanders studying this battle afterward kept returning to the same question: how did a position they considered unbreakable fall apart in a matter of hours? The answer had nothing to do with numbers or equipment. It came down to something no intelligence report could measure. It was the result of 18 months of training, discipline, and a decision made in seconds by two sergeants who kept moving forward instead of turning back. If Lommel and Kuhn had stopped after finding empty gun pits, German crews would have returned, repositioned those weapons, and turned them on the beaches that same day. The story of Pointe du Hoc rarely makes the front page of D-Day history. It gets overshadowed by the dramatic images from Omaha Beach and the chaos of the landing craft. But without the destruction of those guns, casualties on the beaches below could have been far higher. A cliff the Germans called a natural fortress became the place where their best-laid defensive plan fell apart in a single morning. German soldiers who survived that day described something that changed how they thought about the war. Impossible to take is only impossible until someone decides to try. That night and that morning on the coast of Normandy, German soldiers learned exactly why the name Rangers would carry weight for the rest of the war. Not because they were unstoppable, because they did the things no one else dared to do, and they did them at the exact moment it mattered most.